Coming up on the Cam Show, the Patriots somehow setting the bar even lower than it already was. And what teams would actually be interested in Matthew Judon? And you know what I think about when I watch the Olympics? I wish they had less sports. All that and more coming up on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. It is the Cam Show. It is powered by Rogue Media Sports Network here in the historic Alico building in Waco, Texas, where we are rubbernecking towards Patriots practice. It's just so bad, but you can't stop looking at it. You can't look away from this car crash of joint practices between the Patriots and the Eagles in Foxborough. Look, we knew it probably wasn't going to be the Patriots looking the better team. The Eagles are a legit Super Bowl contender, and even though they fell off towards the end of last season, they're still one of the most well-rounded teams in the entire league. And the Super Bowl just 2 years ago, and the Patriots are not Super Bowl contenders. So we knew, look, it wasn't like going to be this great performance by the Patriots, but it was almost a no-lose situation in that the Patriots, if they looked any kind of good, or Drake Maye looked any kind of good, you would say, wow, look, this is coming against the Super Bowl contending Eagles. This is what really matters. Preseason games, those don't mean shit anymore. We're looking at the joint practices. So anything good was going to look really good for the Patriots. Notice I said almost a no-lose situation, because as we will see with this team from now until late December, early January, they're going to find a way to lose, even when it's a no-lose situation, because the Patriots apparently looked atrocious on the practice field on Tuesday. Greg Bedard, who is a bit dramatic, calling it traumatic to watch this Patriots offense perform. And he does have the numbers in the quarterback team periods. Your starter, Jacoby Brissett, 11 for 20 with a touchdown, 3 drops, 2 picks. He says they weren't his fault. At least one of them that I saw on tape, not his fault. And 6 sacks. How about Drake Maye? 5 of 8. Fumbled snap. No picks. 8 sacks. The team total 16 for 28. A touchdown, 2 picks, a fumble, 14 sacks, and 3 drops. They dropped back 28 times and got sacked 14 times. Now, my Rockland High mathematics can get me through this one. Every 2 times they were dropping back, one of them was a sack. That's fucking horrible, man. And if you want to look at the decline of this football team over the last few years, there's plenty of things you can look at. And I'm talking post-Brady. There's plenty of things you can look at. You can look at the offensive coordinators. Having a DC running an offense, or having Mac Jones have 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. You could talk about the weapons, because at times they have had the worst receiver room in the league, especially after Jacoby Myers left. Jacoby Myers, good player in this league. He's not one that should be the make or break of your receiver room, but that has been the case. But what you can really look at is in 2021, when they were a playoff team in Mac's rookie year, they were comfortably in the bottom third of the league in sacks allowed. So top third in least sacks allowed. Offensive line was pretty good. Then the next year, 22, they're 15th in the league in sacks allowed. Okay, you're still close to the bottom half, right? Pretty close, but you're not. And then last year, top 10 in sacks allowed. And somehow, this offensive line is even worse than last year's. So what do you expect? Why would you put Drake Maye out there right now? He would get killed. It's a suicide mission to put him out there with this offensive line. I'm just realizing that YouTube's going to hate that I said that. But it's true. He's going to go out there. He's going to get his head beat in if he's playing behind this offensive line. The Jacoby Brissett thing, bringing him in was like, please, Jacoby, guaranteed money, okay? You're going to look like Troy Aikman in his first year. They're going to have to be, scraping you up off the turf. But please, could you just do this solid? We'll keep you in the league. because this is going to be a disaster, an absolute disaster. Defense looked good, apparently. That's what they should be. They should be a top 5, top 10 defense again. But this is going to be the most brain-dead offense we have seen for the Patriots in 30 years. It's probably going to be the worst Patriots team we've seen in 30 years. And I am searching for the positives right now. The defense looks good, but the defense was very, very good last year. They were top 5 in the league. And how many games could you point to on that 2023 schedule that said, damn, if the Patriots just scored 2 touchdowns, they would have won this game? I think of the Chargers game. I think of the Colts game. There's so many that you can circle and just say, man, if they had had a competent NFL bare minimum level of an offense, they would have won this game. But they did not have that. And it's even worse this year than it was last year. The offensive line is worse. The weapons are meh. Maybe worse, maybe better. Flip a fucking coin. Quarterback situation might even be worse. But it all starts with that offensive line. And they're supposed to be a team that's going to run the football down your throat. Good luck. Good luck. Because the other thing is, you have Ramondre Stevenson, who's a good back. I don't know if he's a franchise back. I don't know if he's the guy that is worth, almost $10 million a year and a lot of guaranteed money. I don't know that he's worth that, but he's a good, solid back. Who else? Kevin Harris? Jermichael Hasty? What are you rolling out there? What out there is saying, yeah, this is going to be a team that is going to cram it down your throat? Try and stop them on the run. What is pointing to that? And Alex Van Pelt, who I gave a lot of flowers to last week, and I still believe his offensive philosophy fits Drake Maye well. Alex Van Pelt is a guy who is predicated on taking shots on play action. Well, when you can't run the ball, what does play action even do? And yes, I do think his style of offense fits Drake Maye's skill set. But A, when are we going to see Drake Maye? B, when is he going to be ready to be on the field? Because those aren't the same thing. And C, is he going to have enough time to actually get the ball down the field? I found it pretty funny how much the Patriots defense blitzed in that first preseason game against the Panthers, because I imagine they're doing that a lot in practice. Who needs coverage sacks against this team? You're not going to have time for coverage sacks. The quarterback's not going to have time to get coverage sacks. This is going to be the worst Patriots team in decades, man. Since pre-Parcells. That's what we're looking at. Last year was probably it. Last year was probably the worst team they had since 92 when they got the number 1 pick in the next year's draft and drafted Drew Bledsoe. It hasn't been the same since. They've had some not great teams, but that was terrible last year, and we're looking at even worse. I was thinking about a team that was 3 or 4 wins last year. I'm thinking 3 or 4 this year. They might win 1 game. If they can't protect any quarterback who's back there, they might win 1, maybe 2 games. It's that bad. The personnel is that bad. The coaching staff, we don't even know. Because they've had such limited experience, and in a lot of cases, no coaching experience, as in like Gerard Mayo, no head coaching experience. And you think you're getting a guy who's caught up in the Patriot way. He's only played for in the NFL and only coached for Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick was apparently so bad last year after almost 25 years of great that you fired him. Fine, but then why bring in someone who's been on his staff? If you really want to shake it up, why don't you bring someone else in if the Belichick way is that bad? But that's what we're seeing, and Mayo has no connections in this league because he hasn't worked anywhere else. And so now you're bringing in this amalgamation clusterfuck of coaches who are retreads and also rans, and failed head coaches like Ben McAdoo, who was laying out the plan for your franchise quarterback. Give me a break. Mac Jones had the benefit of having a good, solid football team around him. Once again, a good defense like they have now, a good offensive line, 2 good young running backs, something at receiver, Kendrick Bourne, a healthy Kendrick Bourne, and Jacoby Myers. Not a lot, but you had something. And we wonder, wow, why did Mac look so good that rookie year? It's because he had a competent team around him. He had an offensive line that keeps his jersey clean. He had running backs that could actually establish the run. He had some guys who could get open on third down. He had an offensive coordinator who had been there before, who had success. Drake Maye has none of those things. And we're sitting here wondering, why isn't Drake Maye going to start week 1? There's your fucking answer. He doesn't have anything around him. Let Jacoby Brissett take the brunt. Let the Jag veteran take the hits. And I said last week, I'm okay with sitting Drake Maye until this is figured out. But you can't redshirt the kid. This is not getting figured out anytime soon. So it's great that you're going after the receivers and you're locking in these guys who led you to 4-13 last year. But you can't figure out the tackle situation. You have a Pittsburgh reject as your number 1 tackle out there. The one the Steelers were like, okay, great, get rid of him. That's the guy you're hinging your offensive line on. Give me a break, man. This is going to be one of, if not the worst offensive lines in football, and therefore one of the worst teams in football. So you want to give up a first-round pick for CeeDee Lamb? It's never going to happen. You want to throw out your next year's first-round pick for Brandon Ayuk? The 49ers would have fleeced you if that happened. That could be the number 1 pick in the goddamn draft with this offensive line. So this is your barometer, Patriots fans. You've seen them go against a good, competent NFL team in these joint practices that people actually care about more so than the preseason games, and that was the product you got. 28 dropbacks and 14 sacks and 2 picks in the red zone. Good Lord, have mercy on us all. So what team would actually want Matthew Judon? And do you want less sports at the Olympics? All that and more coming up on The Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. Braden Murray in early today. He wanted to talk some Patriots. He really is itching to talk about the Patriots after that disastrous joint practice with the Eagles and consequent rant on the opening of this show about said terrible practice with the Eagles. There are changes that need to be made with the Patriots. And there's no one move that I think makes this team significantly better. And one move that I don't necessarily think needs to happen, but looks like it will happen, is Matthew Judon out. Because there are reports now that the Patriots have been lightly shopping Pro Bowler Matthew Judon, who has been one of the best pass rushers in the league the last 4 or 5 years. But now he's 31. He is in the last year of his deal. Still no contract extension. He has thrown hissy fits. He has marched out of practice. He has called out the GM and the head coach and the sports talk radio stars of the Boston media. And now it seems as though the Patriots are lightly shopping Matthew Judon, which is not much of a surprise. And again, I talked about this last week. Undoubtedly, he was in that trade package for Brandon Ayuk to San Francisco. For sure he was. And so now you're talking about a disgruntled 31-year-old pass rusher on an expiring contract who missed 13 games last year. We have not heard a definitive list or a definitive rumored list of teams that have been interested in Matthew Judon. Braden Murray, Do you think there's any interest from your Houston Texans in a pass rusher of this ilk?
He's 31.
31.
Is he outside or inside?
Outside.
Outside? I don't know. I don't think so.
Technique. There you go. Couldn't have said it any better myself. It's an intriguing one. The Matthew Judon thing is intriguing because I think there are so many teams in the league that could go after him because there's no guarantee they would sign him to an extension.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, he is 31.
Yeah.
$6.5 million this year. That's not a lot.
No, that's a good deal.
You get a 1-year guy who is still a damn good pass rusher. I mean, before he got hurt last year, he was a problem, and the year before he had 16.5 sacks. So you get a guy like that, and it's not going to cost you. It's going to cost you $6.5 million this year, and it's going to therefore, a guy on an expiring contract, it's going to give you a day 3 pick. Two day 3 picks, maybe.
What if you trade him for CeeDee Lamb?
Probably. Straight up.
Yeah.
I will say the Cowboys are a team that I think would be interested.
Mm-hmm.
New defensive coordinator.
When did Van Der Esch retire? Was that this offseason?
This offseason, yeah. Yep. And they are still thin at linebacker, actually. But
you only need a receiver.
You want to talk about a good pass rush. The Cowboys have it because they have Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll remember, because I'm sure you heard the Cowboys fans talking about it, it was months between holding calls happening against Micah Parsons. A defense can key on Micah Parsons 100% of the time. And by the way, he's still going to be the best defensive player in the NFL. But then you throw in more than competent pass rusher on the other side. Lord help us. Lord help that NFC East, brother. Like, that would be a deadly combo. And again, if you're the Cowboys, what does it cost you? Because you don't have a lot of cap space.
Mm-hmm.
But a year at $6.5 million, and you're trading a couple day 3 picks.
Yeah.
Probably not CeeDee Lamb. I mean, if I'm the Cowboys, I am seriously thinking about that. I am chomping at the bit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not the Cowboys' only issue. They've got a real depth problem at linebacker. They have no clue what they're doing at running back. But if you want to bolster a defense, Dion, that means make the defense better, improve. Bolster the defense and your pass rush.
Just random shots at Dion?
Foolproof way.
That was great. Random shots at Deion Sanders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dion doesn't know what bolstered means. I'm not a Dion fan. Speaking of the Cowboys, I am not a Dion fan anymore. I mean, not that I ever was, but I was like, yeah, it's Dion, whatever. What do you expect? But I'm now just not. I want to beat Colorado.
Not to hijack your segment very quickly.
Please do.
You remember, I don't know, it was like May or so, The Athletic did an article about all the Colorado transfers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one of them was Maddox Kopp, who transferred. I went to middle school with Maddox Kopp.
Really?
Yeah, and he was a 3-star out of high school, went to Houston, and I remember him transferring to Colorado. And when Dion came, I was super excited to see what he would do with Maddox. And then he said, I'm bringing my own luggage, and Maddox transferred to Miami, Ohio. But he was in the article. I thought, oh.
That's crazy.
Shout out to Maddox.
That's crazy.
That's brazy.
Yeah, I am not a Dion guy, and I'm starting to hate Colorado fans even more. Like what we thought the Utah fans were going to be, that's what Colorado fans actually are. And I want to beat them so bad. And most years that would be easy because they stink, but so does Baylor. Matthew Judon and the Cowboys, to me, like I said about the Patriots, there's no one quick fix that makes them better this year. And I don't know that there's one for the Cowboys either at those positions that I'm talking about because of their money situation. But what you can do is you can make a good strength of your team, the best strength of your team, I think, by bringing in a guy like Judon to play opposite
Micah
Parsons. That, to me, is huge. The other team that is being rumored out there is the Chicago Bears.
I was going to say the Bears probably could use some help.
Who have, good plus odds for making the NFC Championship game I saw yesterday.
Wow.
Like, where is this coming from? Like, we all love Caleb Williams. We all love Rome Odunze.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a team that was very far off last year, in the last couple of years. I don't know where that's coming from, but they were one of the worst pass rushes in the league last year. They had they were 31st in sacks at 30. By the way, the Patriots weren't much better. They only had 36 when they didn't have Judon for 13 weeks of the season. So the Bears, again, it's one of those things where you've got a lot of cap space. Unlike the Cowboys, you got a lot of cap space because you got a young team, and you bring in a veteran guy who can still produce, and maybe you do extend him for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to go crazy with him. No one's going to give Judon a 4-year deal. So you're not going crazy with it. You can afford to give up a couple of late-round picks.
Is there anyone from Chicago that you would want in the package?
I don't know the Bears well enough.
Give me Caleb Williams.
The thing is, you're not going to get a tackle out of them that's worth a damn, which is what you need. That's why you need to hold on to that first-round pick for next year. You got to pick a tackle there. And their receiving core, before drafting Roma Dunze, was just as bad as the Patriots. So
they have
I don't know.
DJ Moore now, right?
Yes, that's they did get DJ Moore. I don't think they would trade him for Matthew Judon, but
No, probably not.
yeah, I don't think there's anyone that sticks out like their number 2 receiver or anything that I'm like, yeah, let's go get him. But I don't think the Patriots are going to get much of anything. I don't even know if they'll get a player. I think it's going to be like a 4th and 5th round pick, 5th and 6th round pick for Matthew Judon, who is disgruntled, and not just because he's playing for the Patriots, because he doesn't have a new deal. Which I've said this time and time again, man. It stinks that like he actually seemed to really like playing for the Patriots, even in this post-Brady era. He kind of took it upon himself to be like a leader of the team, to recruit free agents and everything. And like people love wearing the red sleeves under their jerseys and doing the sack celebration. But for what? For what? Like, he's not going to make this team any better this year. I thought they would extend him by now. Apparently, they're still trying to work it. I'm not gonna shed any tears if they don't extend him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a team could really use him. The best case scenario for the Patriots, I think, would be he does play. You don't give him a contract extension, but he does play. He stays healthy, and he's pretty damn productive for the first 5 or 6 weeks.
4 or 5 weeks. Yeah.
And then some contender who's fading fast needs a pass rush, and maybe they get a 3rd round pick for Matthew Judon. We'll see. Anyway, it's Braden Murray. He's going to talk about the Olympics and all the sports we need to cut, and some we don't. That's coming up on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. It is the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Braden Murray alongside. We have wrapped up the Olympics, Braden. And, we got to celebrate sport for 2 weeks, 2.5. And you know what I said at the end of it? Boy, I could do with less sports at these things.
Yeah. Can I just say,
what's the point?
Before we go in, I do like when you say my name in that accent, because it makes it sound like I'm a BBC guest host.
A correspondent even?
Yeah.
Braden Murray.
Live. Boots
on the ground. That was not bad right there.
Yeah.
That whole Saturday of practice really helped. You are big into the Olympics, Braden.
Sure.
By that I mean there's a couple things you like.
Yeah.
And that you're into. Did you say your mom's way into it?
My mom gets super into it. So does my dad. I guess by virtue my siblings do too.
I've thought more about this because I think I said it on the show last week. I don't know why I'm not into it more. I don't know if it's just because I'm so into team sports the rest of the year.
Do you have regular television, or are you streaming services only?
Streaming.
I think that might be it.
But I've also never really been way into it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? 2008, I watched a bunch of the Michael Phelps stuff.
Yeah.
Because we kind of knew what was happening. I never really watched track, even though I really respect track. You know what I mean? Basketball, and in the Winter Olympics, I watched a lot of hockey. But that's kind of it. It's it's the team sports I watch the rest of the year. I don't even have anything against these sports. I don't I don't know.
I mean,
That's
don't.
what I've been wrestling with. I don't know why I'm not into. I don't feel bad, but you either like it or you don't. But I just don't really know why I'm not more into it.
And I think it might be because everyone there is like the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a ton of parodies. So maybe you don't find it interesting because of that.
Maybe. I'm also a big atmosphere guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's tough for me. We talked about this with soccer. Like, it's tough for me to watch an international soccer tournament unless, when you're getting deep in the quarterfinals and semifinals, there's a lot of fans for that team or whatever in the stadium. But you watch, like, the group stage of a World Cup or a Euros, and there's a lot of corporate crowd in there.
Yeah.
They're not close to the pitch or anything. And so I was saying that lack of atmosphere is something that is tough for me. And there is a bit of a lack of atmosphere at the Olympics because they're not like teams fans.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing they can really do about that. But I don't know. So I've just been wrestling with that, and I wanted to bring that up. I've had some internal reflection.
Okay.
I've really looked deep inside myself. But that said, I didn't come to the conclusion that Jonathan Liu did of The Guardian.
The Guardian.
He's
Australian,
saying
right?
Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
LA Olympic Games do not need every sport, so let's cut your favorite. Favorite is how they spell it in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting title to go about it. But, I mean, he just basically says there's too many sports. There's a bunch of things, like the people out there couldn't cover them all, and they had to put some in Tahiti. And it's like, when is enough? And so he starts cutting the sports. So first off, Braden, what do you think about that first, that intro of we just need less sports? Is that something you're vibing with?
I'm going to say no because it gives more people an opportunity to earn their shine.
Yeah. I get his overall point. And I think this is coming up from our favorite, breaking. Not being in the 2028 Olympics. I think that's what's this is born out of.
I heard something yesterday about that Australian girl.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I didn't even notice that this was breakdancing. I thought she was some other sport and she was celebrating. She had like the hat on and stuff. I was like, oh, I didn't notice that was actual breakdancing.
There may have been some foul play regarding her qualification. I haven't researched
she
it.
She didn't earn the breakdancing.
Apparently, again, I haven't looked this up anymore. But I've heard that she's married to like the head judge of the Australian Breaking Committee.
Oh no.
And
that's not good.
She got her like thesis and the cultural significance of breakdancing or something. And now I'm going to say because of her, the LA Olympic Committee said, we're going to axe breaking.
Too much corruption in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Too much corruption. What if she had a hand in picking her own DJ?
Yeah.
Or songs?
That'd be even worse.
That would be really scandalous. Man. Look, I mean, we love breakdancing, right?
Sure.
Is it an Olympic sport?
Is it a sport?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. That's what I think this is being born out of. And to be fair, I think breakdancing is the most out there the Olympics has gotten in a long time.
Do you think cheer is a sport?
No.
I think it's an athletic competition.
Right. I think that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Like, you have to be an athlete.
You're very talented.
To be a competitive cheerleader or a competitive breakdancer. You have to be an athlete. But it's not a sport. You're not like competing with somebody. You know what I mean? And that's not the end all be all, because like I think figure skating is a sport, but like barely. You know what I mean? Like it takes a ton of skill. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do breakdancing. I can't do synchronized swimming.
Right. I can't do a triple backflip or.
But is it a sport? I don't know. But yet, I don't think that cheerleading is a sport, like the MAC competitions. But I think we all agree gymnastics is a sport.
Yeah.
So I think there
Where's
is something
the line there?
to I don't know, even just like throwing an obstacle in there. You know, the uneven bar, like everything that's in the gymnastics is an obstacle. Whereas cheerleading and synchronized swimming and breakdancing and to some degree figure skating, it's just about how you look.
Okay.
But then that becomes uneven because there is some, to how you look in gymnastics. This is my thought process, Braden. Is it's tough. It's like what that Supreme Court justice said about porn. I don't know how to define it. You know it when you see it.
Oh.
That's what sports are to me. Like NASCAR, is that a sport?
We've talked about this. I say NASCAR is not a sport, but like open air cockpit, that's a sport.
What's the difference there in your mind?
I think it's just because
I don't watch it.
I'm more I said this in our last discussion about this, but I'm more familiar with F1 training regiment than NASCAR training regiment. But they do a lot of weight work with their neck to be able to keep their head straight without being affected by the G-forces.
I think baseball is a sport.
You think so?
Yeah, bold take.
That's a bold take right there.
But I also think like it's the one you can be the least in shape of the major sports.
Yeah.
Like, a David Ortiz.
Big sexy.
A Yordan Alvarez. You know what I mean? I'm not saying these guys aren't great. They're obviously very, very good. And there are other things that you need to do. But I think some people will point at that and say, well, how much of a sport is it that? Like, all these NASCAR guys are in good shape. So I don't know. It's tough to say. Our pal here, Jonathan Liu, starts cutting sports from the Olympics or cutting events from the Olympics, if you will. And Braden, I'm thinking how we want to do this. Do you want to just go in with each one and say whether we would cut it or not?
We could do that.
Sailing.
I would probably cut sailing. I don't see how it's really a sport.
I don't mind cutting it.
Yeah.
It takes talent, takes skill, but I don't mind cutting it. I just and I actually kind of agree with his point here. First off, is how many of you own a boat? A boat.
Yeah.
How many of you get access to a boat or a sea to sail it in? Like that. To me, the gate is a little tougher to get into sailing than it is gymnastics or, track and field or anything like that. And that's what the Olympics were born out of, right? Things you could actually do, the common man could do.
And I know we have, at Baylor, we have sailing classes. But I think I'd be fine with not having this in the Olympics.
Archery.
That should stay, I think. That should stay because I think it's impressive how much better they are than I am at archery.
Did you teach that at camp?
Yeah.
Nice. I had a friend in high school who became the archery instructor at the local Y summer camp. And we were like, have you done this before? He was like, no. I was like, how did you get this job? And he was like, they just needed somebody to do it. So he started teaching archery. I don't mind seeing that one go either. I'm not going to lie to you. Again, it's skill, but then again, why not have darts?
That would be electric.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you've seen it on ESPN from time to time.
Yeah.
They'll do darts competitions. It's actually big in the UK. Shit gets intense, man.
It does get intense.
So, to me, it's no different in terms of a skill. Surfing. This is like real tough for me. It feels like more of a sport than some things that are in the Olympics. Because, when I talked about that vague, you need to be competing against someone or something, which you don't see in cheerleading or breakdancing. You see it in gymnastics because you have literal hurdles, like obstacles. There are obstacles in surfing. You are going against something. It's Mother Nature. You're going against it. That's impressive. But do I see it as a sport? I don't know.
Would you cut it? I think I would keep it because it's impressive to watch.
Yeah. There is also the argument of they couldn't even do it in France.
Yeah, barrier to entry is
so that's tough. That's a tough thing.
They shouldn't have that. Well, they won't have the problem in LA.
No, they won't. They will be okay with that, I think. So would I cut it? I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no. but just barely. It's probably in the next round of cuts. Anything with a horse.
Yes, cut it.
Well, what I say about that is what I say about, jockeys. Jockeys have an impressive regiment, and they do need to work out and obviously keep a certain weight, and they do a skillful job. But when you watch the horse racing, who is the athlete?
Yeah.
The jockey or the horse? That's
I
all.
used to say that we had a news editor who was on the equestrian team here, and I always used to say, "This is not a sport, Tatum."
Yeah, it's just.
Can I meet the horses? The horses are more impressive, and she did
Yeah.
not. She did not appreciate that joke, but
3-on-3 basketball.
I have no strong opinion about 3-on-3 basketball.
I didn't understand why it was in the Olympics in the first place.
Yeah, I could, yeah.
I don't understand it. What other team sport are we limiting and making it another sport in the Olympics? There could be one that I don't know about. But what other sport are we doing that for?
Yeah.
I barely watched it. Part of it is because the U.S. really sucked at it.
And both
for some reason.
sides.
I have no idea. I have no idea why. But to me, that's just schoolyard stuff. You know what I mean? Clearing beyond the 3-point line and checking and that's just not what extra skill does it take to be good in 3-on-3 basketball that you don't get in 5-on-5 basketball? Is more where I'm at. I don't get it.
I think the U.S. women were supposed to be a lot better because Cameron Brink was on the team.
Yes.
But then she tore her ACL. Because
I gave her mine. Yeah.
She and Haley Van Lith, and I forget who, I don't know who else was on the team, but they won a bunch of under 18, under 22 World Cup championships together. And then, Cameron tore her ACL. I offered to give her mine, but she didn't want it, I guess.
And a steak dinner.
Yes.
And a night out in the town.
A night out in Waco, Texas.
I do really like Jonathan's write-up on this 3-on-3. Look, we've all had to play in a game where not quite enough people turned up. You would play half-pitch football, soccer, because you couldn't get the numbers. A couple of your guys have to field the opposition because they have only brought 9. Only in basketball is the makeshift exigency
I don't know what
somehow elevated to the level of Olympic medals. This is the Guardian, after all. 3 is not enough for a game of basketball by a factor of about roughly 60%. An entirely unnecessary discipline existing entirely for people somehow convinced proper basketball isn't accessible enough. That's perfect. It's a great way to put it. There's no need for it. I wonder if that will be there in 28. And I say that because I've seen, you probably haven't, the movie White Men Can't Jump.
The Jack Harlow version, right?
Yeah.
The Woody Harrelson.
The schoolyard basketball is a very prevalent thing in LA, and I think that means something. You
think
it'll
be back?
That it will come back. I don't know about after that. This is a good one. Rowing.
I don't know. What would you do? I think I would keep it.
I would 1,000% keep it.
Okay.
The sport of rowing is
very physically taxing.
An insane test of the human body.
Yeah, insane endurance and strength.
It could be, you could argue it's the hardest sport on the body of any one of those and anything at the Olympics, because it's your muscles aren't supposed to do that. What you're doing in rowing.
For that long.
Yeah. It's an insane test of endurance. And I get what he's saying. I don't agree with it at all. But he was saying, basically his thesis is it's one of those Olympic sports that exists largely because people in 1900 thought it was pretty neat. And rowing did have its heyday. In the early 20th century. Have you ever read the book Boys in the Boat?
No, but there's a movie out about it now.
Yeah, not a great movie.
Okay.
It's fine. It takes some liberties. It's maybe the best book I've ever read.
Really?
It's incredible story.
They have it at Fabled. I thought about buying it.
You should absolutely read it. I read it in 3 days. It's about the 36 Olympic rowing team. And and where they came from, and it's awesome. They came from the University of Washington, and they go into great detail about these guys' lives, but also the sport of rowing, and it is not for the faint of heart, man. It is real heavy shit, rowing and crew. Yes, I think this is the most asinine one he's had on here so far, because he compares it to sailing, and
yeah,
it's not the same.
Both involve a boat. I'll give him that.
Correct. But you can do rowing almost any body of water.
Yeah.
Right? That seems a bit of a stretch. But like, you can't really do sailing in the Brazos River most of the time. You could do rowing.
You can.
In fact, rowing teams will train in the Brazos River in Texas or any major river that you live near. And sailing isn't as accessible because you don't have a sailboat. You need to learn how to do that.
It's
like
really dependent on the
rowing, and if
wind.
you read Boys in the Boat, none of these guys were sailors. You know, they came in, they were great athletes, and they learned how to row as a part of a team. And it is a great test of strength and of endurance and of team. So all of that together to me means great Olympic sport. Just because you don't do it a lot of times until you're in college, or in some cases high school, doesn't mean it can't be an Olympic sport. In fact, every track and field athlete ever started out playing a different sport.
Yep.
No one starts out by just doing track. So yes, rowing 1,000% should be in there. And if you cut half the Olympic sports, rowing should still be in there.
Okay.
Golf.
I mean, we won gold, so I'm going to say keep that bad boy.
Golf to me, like, I'm fine keeping it. I'm not a golf fan, contrary to the hat. I'm not a golf fan, but it does seem like one of those that I think a lot of people had the argument for baseball, which is coming back in 28, of don't we have enough? Like, don't we have enough golf competitions throughout the year? Don't we have enough baseball? You can make the same argument for basketball and hockey too, two that I watch a lot. So I'm like hit or miss with it. I don't think there's anything inherent in the sport that needs to be like this isn't enough of a sport. But to use the baseball argument from earlier, you don't have to be in great shape to be a great golfer.
True.
Usually they are, but you don't have to be. You're keeping golf?
I think so.
Fuck it, I'll cut golf.
Okay.
Mainly because of my biases. Volleyball.
You go first.
Of course you keep it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll read you his write-up before you give your opinion here. And he does say this may be the most contentious one of all. Volleyball ticks many of the boxes of a classic Olympic sport. Tradition, low bars to entry, city-based. But in a contracting games, it is increasingly difficult to make the case that there should be two separate disciplines. And sorry, beach volleyball wins. It's picturesque, it's outdoors, it's hedonistic. It takes the skills of traditional volleyball and projects them into a more digestible format. There are probably one too many Olympic sports that give off the vibe of provincial leisure center at 6 p.m. With regrets, volleyball gets the short straw. So he's talking obviously indoor volleyball. I get his point.
Yeah.
I don't mind having the two volleyball disciplines though.
I think it's fine.
And especially the glaring fact that indoor volleyball is the much more popular sport.
Yes.
Like, there's some beach volleyball competitions outside of the Olympics, but volleyball is a massively popular sport in our country, not the one that Jonathan's writing from. In our country, it's massively popular from the youth level all the way up through college.
Yeah.
Like, that in soccer and basketball, those are the women's sports.
Softball.
Softball too. I think volleyball is even more popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're right. But so I don't see a good enough reason there to cut volleyball.
Yeah. I mean,
and other countries do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like one of those ones that Americans just dominate.
Other countries do it better than America because we won silver.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. And if the Americans can win silver, I think it's a good enough sport for me. So are you keeping it or no?
Avery Skinner, Baylor Bear, keeping it.
Okay. Men's football. That's soccer.
I'm aware.
Soccer.
I'm aware. It crashed.
I like his point. Here.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where I wouldn't mind cutting it. Even though it fits, like he said about volleyball, it fits every box for an Olympic sport.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't...
Wait. Yeah, that's a good point.
But what his point is, and what my point is nobody nobody
under the
watches
stars.
it because it's all U23s, so you don't know who these players are.
Yeah.
And it's not really indicative of who the next stars are going to be,
Why
or what
is-
the next great footballing nation is going to be.
Why is women's soccer not the under 23 teams and men's are?
I don't really know. I guess
Like, I mean, they had a full season a full summer beforehand of competition.
right, and also it like doesn't. Do the women's have a Euros? I don't even know.
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's that because the men's Euros are always going to line up with that. That might be a big reason why, but it's like neither of them are in their domestic leagues right now, so I'm thinking it's the Euros thing.
Okay.
But like it stinks, and with the under 23 rules, you can have like 2 or 3 guys who aren't under 23. So like France had Alexandre Lacazette, who is like 32. It's just a weird. I don't know. It to me it doesn't prove. It's not indicative of anything greater in the sport, which is a really weird way of saying this. But like. Whoever wins the gold medal doesn't mean like, oh, that's the team of the future in Europe or South America or whatever. Yeah. Men's football. What do you think?
I think because it's the U23 rule, I think you can cut that.
That is my weird pick of it does fit all the boxes, but I don't mind getting rid of it. And that's men's football. Okay. All right. You ready for this? This is a pretty vague last one on the list.
It is very vague.
Swimming. Okay, not all the swimming, but pretty much all the bits that are just weird forms of swimming. No other sport allows participants to simply do it backwards or call it a separate event with separate medals. As impressive as Michael Phelps and Leon Marchand are, with their multiple medals in multiple disciplines, you have to ask whether, if they can win multiple medals in multiple disciplines, those disciplines aren't all that different. Swimming occupies far too much games real estate, leading to the ludicrous scenario where Paris built 2 aquatic venues, one for swimming and one for the rest of the pool sports. Keep the freestyle at its various distances. Keep one medley race to give to Adam Peaty, something to do at weekends. The rest, unfortunately, goes into the Great Games intestine for injection, an ugly and regrettable process, but one for which the body as a whole will emerge far healthier as a result.
This sounds like a salty Brit.
I am fine with all the swimming.
Yeah, me too.
First off, I mean, swimming in general, the generalness of it, which he agrees, the general swimming should be in there. That, to me, is a hallmark of Olympic sports.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking track and field.
Swimming.
And then probably swimming.
Yeah.
Like the next one. And he mentions 2 of the best swimmers of their generation, Michael Phelps and Leon Marchand. Yes, those guys are going to win in multiple disciplines. They're that good.
Yeah.
They are that good. And I would throw on the flip side, Katie Ledecky is the best women's swimmer of all time, but she can't win the sprints anymore. She's old. Mm-hmm. She wins the distance events.
Yeah.
So that to me proves that there is a difference there. The young ones who are that great can probably win both, like Katie Ledecky used to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's really impressive that she could say, okay, let's make this 16 laps, and I'm going to be better than you sprinters.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with track and field. I mean, what is different? The 100 and the 400, you're running the same. It's just a different distance. So why aren't we taking the same thing out on track and field that we are with swimming? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or our 100 runners, some of them, the 100-meter sprint, they're running in the 4x1 relays.
Yeah.
So you're doing it a little bit differently. You're passing a baton. That's different, though. That is something. So to me, this is ludicrous. I'm keeping all the swimming in there.
I think, is he talking about synchronized swimming too, though?
No, he doesn't call that out. That's one I would get rid of, if we're being honest. That to me is a show rather than.
I mean, it's a weird form of swimming.
Yeah, but he's talking. I think he's also being like
the backstroke.
Right. The backstroke and the butterfly freestyle, like that kind of thing is what I'm getting out of it. I'm yes on swimming. Vote yes on swimming.
Vote yes on keeping it?
Yes.
I think you have to keep swimming.
So I am keeping swimming, volleyball, rowing.
I'm keeping swimming, volleyball, golf.
And I think I said surfing.
Rowing. And archery, I think.
Gotcha. Like sailing to me, that seems elitist.
Yeah.
Which he mentions in here. It is. It's super elitist. Rowing is not. 3-on-3 basketball, like it's just
who watches that?
5-on-5. I don't know who did. Anyway, that's what we're doing. Those are the sports we're keeping. LA 2028. They are also introducing a bevy of new sports, which I do want to get to before we get out of here. Where does he have it? Okay. Baseball, softball, back. Cricket,
Okay.
flag football.
Oh, that's 2028. Okay.
Squash, and lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
Which ones of those would you not put in there?
Probably lacrosse.
Why?
I don't know anything about it.
I mean, fair enough, I guess. I am going to be way into the lacrosse.
Really?
Yeah, I love lacrosse.
Is that big up where
Played
you're
lacrosse
from?
in high school. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it is a very weird.
Lacrosse also seems elitist to me.
Well, this is what I'm going to say. Is it's like weirdly yes, but also kind of no. So lacrosse was obviously invented by the Native Americans, the Iroquois tribe, and there is still a lot of the Northeast where people of Native American descent, while not being the richest in the world, can still play and will still play. And my town, which was a very poor town, did find a way to play. It is a rich man's game for the most part.
Yeah.
You'll see the great colleges at it are private schools. The great high schools are private boarding schools. The best players come from those schools. Even the best public schools, it's the rich towns. So I understand that. I do think it has become broad enough. It wasn't as niche. It's not as niche as it was 30 years ago, to the point where I think it can be done. Squash, on the other hand, come on. That's very elitist.
Where do they put? Is that just in the UK? I don't know. I don't really.
Oh
know
no, they play it in this country.
I don't even know what squash is.
It's kind of like racquetball.
Oh, okay. I do know what squash is.
It's you gotta be real rich. I mean, the schools that are good at it are Ivies and NESCACs. So it's Harvard and Princeton and Bowdoin and Amherst College, and those are the schools that are good at squash. Flag football, jury's out on that one, because if I'm gonna pan 3-on-3 basketball for what it is, flag football is gonna be similar. Although I will say, 3-on-3 basketball, it's the same game but smaller. It's the same skill, whereas flag football could have an advantage to a guy who is a burner wide receiver but struggles to get open or can't take hits in the pros.
Yeah.
They could be great at flag football. Tyquan Thornton, my guy, not a big guy. He's been on IR his first 2 years with the Patriots. He could be a flag football star.
Almost broke the record for 40-yard dash.
Almost. Anyway, that's the Olympics. Can you even bear the weight for 2028?
Bear the weight.
Like the weight that you'll
Oh,
have to go through.
WAIT.
Yeah.
I'm fine, yeah.
Okay. You're fine. Where's the next Winter Olympics?
26.
Where is it?
Oh.
Yeah, I know what it is.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Is it China?
Oof. Didn't they get... Oh, I guess they got summer recently. They got the last summer one. I want this information before we get out of here.
It is in...
Waco, Texas.
Milan.
That's a good spot. They don't have to put anything in Tahiti. They can do all of it there. They got the Alps. Hell yeah, let's go.
I think they still should,
Turin
though.
hosted in 2006. That's not that far away. Huh?
I think they still should just randomly throw in
something. Every Olympics now should have one event in Tahiti.
one event in Tahiti.
Boost that tourism, man. Boost that local economy. He's Braden Murray. I'm Kim Stewart. This has been The Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
We are Rogue Media Sports.